Welcome to Dialogue. So let's just jump right in. We're going to untack this really profound and honestly unsettling paradox that I think defines so much of our culture right now, which is why, in an age where we are more connected than ever, does genuine, deep intimacy feel like it's going extinct?
It's a huge question, and it's one we're seeing play out everywhere. You have this backdrop of widespread, almost expected casual sexual behavior, but against that, there's this rising tide of emotional isolation.
Right. It feels like commitment now has the lifespan of a TikTok trend.
Exactly. And relationships, I mean, they seem to dissolve faster than one of those cheap ramen packets.
Yeah.
It's a strange dynamic.
And the core of what we're seeing, I think, is that sex itself has become something else. It's become casual, it's impulsive, and it's deeply transactional, almost like an efficient service you'd order.
Like DoorDash for connection.
Yes. Or, that 3 a.m. Amazon purchase you make just because you can.
And that's really the mission for our deep dive today.
Yeah.
We're not here to moralize about it. We're here to really dissect the psychological fallout. What is this culture actually doing to our collective mental state?
Because there's this prevailing idea that all this freedom leads to some kind of glorious emotional glow-up.
And the evidence just doesn't seem to support that. What it seems to produce instead is, well, an existential ache, a landscape just filled with these chronic situationships.
Okay, so let's unpack that. To really get the gravity of this shift, we need some context, right?
Yeah.
Because the speed at which this has all changed it's dizzying.
It's monumental. I mean, if we just rewind to, let's call them the ancient times of, say, 1992.
A lifetime ago.
Right. The whole cultural perception of sex was just fundamentally different. It was shaped by, a scarcity of options and these courtship rituals you had to go through. It was often framed as this intimate, almost spiritual merging of two souls.
It sounds so high effort.
It was high effort. And that was the point. It required a huge emotional investment, patience, and you had to build a foundation of trust over time. You had to have those long, awkward conversations without emojis to hide behind.
But the value of the connection was higher precisely because the effort was mandatory. The connection itself was the goal, not just the convenience.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with today. Introductions are optional.
Eye contact is negotiable.
I mean, people will sometimes actively avoid learning a last name because that piece of information psychologically feels too intimate. It's a tell.
Wow.
The entire dynamic is flipped. It's gone from a process of building a bond to just seeking a short-term, high-efficiency fix for something.
You mentioned an insurance policy against loneliness. I find that framing so insightful. It's like we're treating intimacy as a quick hit of caffeine.
Or an emergency dose of adrenaline, yeah. It's a jolt to stabilize your mood so you can function through another high-stress day.
So the inner monologue isn't, I want a partner. It's more like,
It's, I'm stressed, or I'm bored, or my serotonin is in the tank and I need a quick pick-me-up. It's a way to manage that internal chaos without the sustained, uncomfortable work of genuine emotional processing.
and this is where that fast food metaphor just becomes brutally accurate, isn't it?
It really is.
I mean, think about the traits of fast food. It's convenient, it's cheap, it's quick, and there's that gnawing regret if you have it late at night just to satisfy an impulse.
That describes a huge volume of modern casual encounters perfectly. The speed defines the whole experience.
The guiding question used to be something like, do you see a future with this person?
A very long-term investment-based question, yes.
Now the functional question is purely logistical. It's, are you free tonight? I found a loophole in my schedule between my anxiety and my sleep deprivation.
That's it. It's all about velocity, the thrill, the novelty, the dopamine hit, and crucially, avoiding any accountability that comes with a shared history.
It's pleasure without vulnerability, access without attachment.
And that transactional nature is key. The interaction is about fulfilling a need, biological, psychological, with the absolute minimum emotional cost. It perfectly mirrors the efficiency we demand from, every other part of our lives now.
We were joking about this earlier, conceptualizing the Insta-hook fast food sex drive-through.
Right.
You pull up and it's like, yeah, hi, I'll get the quick stress relief combo, hold the strings, and can I get extra validation with that?
And the person at the window who's seen it 1,000 times just says, would you like the ghosting upgrade for $1 more? It ensures zero follow-up and instant detachment.
And as satirical as that is, it absolutely nails the modern expectation, doesn't it?
It does, because the low expectation is the armor. You go into it knowing it's disposable, and that knowledge gives you permission to treat the other person, and maybe yourself, as disposable too.
Hey, let's wade into the really messy part of this, the motivation. Is this really empowerment, or is it just a very sophisticated form of emotional escape?
This distinction is so important because sexual autonomy and freedom, the ability to choose your experiences without being repressed by society, that is overwhelmingly positive. It's necessary for psychological health.
Of course.
But what we've seen is this pervasive confusion between the statement, I'm sexually liberated and empowered, and the much deeper, often unspoken reality, which is I'm emotionally numb and I'm using this liberation as a defense mechanism.
That's the core tension. The cultural green light became do whatever you want sexually, you're free. But that very freedom, which should be fostering connection, is often being used as a shield.
A shield to avoid confronting much deeper, much more uncomfortable issues.
So what are those specific fears people are avoiding when they just stick to the casual route?
Oh, the list is long. But it really centers on these profound relational anxieties. It's the fear of true intimacy, of letting someone really see your inner landscape.
And rejection.
A devastating fear of rejection, especially when you've invested time and you've actually disclosed things about yourself. And maybe the most complicated one, the fear of commitment itself.
The fear of choosing the wrong person.
Or, and this is just as scary for some people, the fear of choosing the right person and then having to do the work to keep them.
So the sex act itself becomes the boundary. It's a way to get physically close without ever having to drop the emotional guard.
Precisely. From a psychological standpoint, casual sex in this context is a brilliant escape route. It's like a mini vacation from loneliness that requires zero emotional prep work. You don't have to pack a bag.
But I do want to push back on that just a little. Isn't there a space where it is genuinely empowering, say for someone who just got out of a really controlling relationship? A casual experience could be a way to reclaim a sense of agency, right?
That's a vital distinction. And yes, absolutely, that space exists. The difference, I think, comes down to intentionality. True empowerment is a conscious choice you make from a place of emotional security and self-knowledge. Avoidance, on the other hand, is an impulsive reaction that comes from a place of anxiety or an emotional deficit. If you're using it to numb pain, it's avoidance. If you're using it to express autonomy, it's empowerment. We're just seeing a lot more of the former right now.
So in that hypothetical therapist skit, the therapist wouldn't challenge the act, but the motive.
Exactly.
The client says, this is empowering, and the therapist gently pushes back. Is it truly empowering you? Or is it just anesthetizing you from that deep emotional chasm inside that still craves connection?
And that's the central tension. Empowerment gets all tangled up when it's really just avoidance wearing the cool outfit of liberation.
Yeah.
We think we're being free, but we might just be running faster from our own reflection.
Speaking of running faster, we have to talk about the technology that has just supercharged this whole dynamic. Dating apps.
The great accelerant.
They didn't invent any of this, but they fundamentally rewired the mechanics of courtship.
Which is why that casino of human connection analogy is so apt. They turned finding a person into a slot machine.
The swipe is the lever pull. And we are just pulling that lever over and over, hoping for that little dopamine payout of a match. Everything is calibrated for speed, fast attraction, fast talking.
Fast hookups, and maybe most importantly, fast disappearing. Ghosting isn't a bug in that system.
It's a feature. It's optimized for efficiency and low accountability.
And the constant bottomless supply of options just warps our perception of human value. If the algorithm is always dangling thousands of potential replacements in front of you, the internal logic immediately becomes, why should I invest in this one person? If they show any complexity, any friction, they're disposable. The next one is just a swipe away.
It completely eliminates the need for emotional labor. If someone's complicated or they require, God forbid, a difficult conversation, the psychological cost of just moving on is basically zero. That old scarcity mindset that forced people to work through things is just, it's gone.
And this creates that devastating feedback loop we talked about. When options feel endless, people start to see others and themselves as commodities. And when you feel like a commodity, you're encouraged to act like one. And that's the moment genuine intimacy just dissolves.
It's like you're at the casino of human connection, right? The odds are stacked against you. The house always wins by keeping you playing, and you spin the wheel of validation, and the outcomes are just bleak. Is your match tonight A, emotionally unavailable, B, a compulsive swiper texting 50 other people,
C, someone who has a terrible personality trait they've hidden really well, or D, all of the above?
All of the above is usually the answer. And the humor there, it masks a real psychological toll. This environment just breeds what you call the emotional Cold War.
It does. It's an exhausting atmosphere of distrust. You can't let your guard down because the person across the table from you might literally be swiping for your replacement while you're in the middle of a sentence.
It's absurd. Which actually seems like a good time to take a quick breather and maybe run through a field guide to the dating archetypes this environment creates.
A necessary moment of levity, yes. We've seen some truly predictable characters emerge.
We have to start with the detachment Olympian.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
the gold medalist in not caring. They've perfected the cool, impenetrable facade. They answer in monosyllables. They're always just a little too busy.
And they define themselves by their lack of neediness. But of course, it's all a front. They're secretly crying alone when their phone isn't buzzing with that fleeting hit of validation.
Then there's the Ghostbuster.
The master of the disappearing act. They vanish after one tiny inconvenience. You sent a text that was 2 sentences too long, or you suggested a date that involved a 15-minute drive.
They're pathologically allergic to any form of emotional administrative labor.
Can't forget the healing era vacationer.
Been healing for 7 years.
Constantly talking about their trauma journey, their boundaries, their growth. But when they're faced with an actually stable, available partner, they run for the hills and choose the most chaotic person imaginable. They confuse stability with boredom.
A classic.
Okay.
And of course, the situationship scholar.
This person could write a PhD thesis on the non-relationship they're currently in. They know 12 academic definitions for "it's complicated."
But they cannot, under any circumstances, use the words girlfriend or boyfriend.
They're experts in taxonomy, but failures in application. And all of this accelerated access to disposable connection, it feeds right into this rise of impulsive sex culture.
It does.
And the nature of that impulsivity has shifted. You know, in the past, an impulse buy might have been a pair of shoes you didn't need. Now, sexual impulsivity is a major thing. And the internal story isn't about connection. It's more like, I hooked up with someone whose name I'm about 80% sure I heard correctly, just because the opportunity was there and I was in a weak moment.
It's treating sex as an impulse buy. And the drivers are almost always negative states. Stress, profound loneliness, boredom, or just wanting that physical connection without any of the emotional heavy lifting.
It's the ultimate shortcut. It gives you the feeling of closeness without the hard work of actual emotional labor.
We have turned each other into emotional vending machines.
Mhm.
If you try to insert genuine vulnerability, the machine just gives you an error message. Machine jammed.
Right. Try again later.
But if you insert just a little bit of attention, a quick swipe, a late-night text with no emotional risk, dopamine drops like a pack of Skittles.
Yeah.
You get the reward without the investment.
And that quick reward is so seductive, but also so corrosive. Which brings us to the real danger here. Using people as medicine, specifically using casual sex as a primary stress reliever.
We have to be clear. Sex can be a healthy stress reliever in a caring, committed context. But what we're talking about here is more like emotional whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole.
You successfully knock down the feeling of loneliness for an hour, but because you didn't address the root cause, it just pops right back up later, often stronger and now mixed with regret.
It's been reframed as the new yoga or meditation. A temporary, effective fix for chronic, deep pain.
And when you use people as medicine, you're trying to treat a systemic issue, loneliness, anxiety, with an activity that's just not built for sustained relief. And the neurobiology here is dangerous.
Tell me more about that.
When you're physically intimate, your body releases powerful bonding hormones, oxytocin, vasopressin. These chemicals are designed to lower your defenses, create trust, and form attachment pathways. They do not care about your no-strings-attached contract.
The brain is forming strings whether you want it to or not.
Exactly. You're chemically bonding with a stranger. If we were to do an infomercial for modern casual sex, it would have to list the side effects: regret, mixed signals, unwanted attachment, and a compounding sense of existential dread when you wake up alone and realize the void wasn't actually filled.
The symptoms return stronger. That's the critical insight. You can't use people as a temporary pharmaceutical without making the original problem more complex over time.
And as this becomes normalized, something foundational is just lost. The sacredness evaporates.
And when we say sacredness, we're not talking about it in a religious sense necessarily.
Not at all. We're talking about the quality of felt meaning, intentionality. If sex was once considered a ritual, an exchange of energy, now the equivalent question is, what time should I Uber home? The gravity's just gone.
And the root cause of that is our collective terror of vulnerability.
Absolutely. Sacredness requires you to slow down. It demands that you be present, which our culture actively discourages. It means you have to be willing to feel something, even if it's uncomfortable.
And in a culture that prizes speed and emotional detachment, the choice is always avoidance.
People fear feelings like medieval peasants feared dragons. I mean, they would rather free climb a skyscraper than let someone truly see them. It's an extreme avoidance.
And that leads us straight into the emotional fallout, the measurable consequences. You said it funnels into three massive cultural trends.
Right. The loneliness paradox, a pervasive distrust, and widespread relationship avoidance.
Let's start with the loneliness paradox. It feels so tragic.
It is. We have more people having casual sex than ever, yet people report feeling more profoundly alone than ever. The mechanism is simple. Intimacy without connection is like eating cotton candy.
It just dissolves instantly.
Right. You get a huge, fleeting sugar spike of dopamine and oxytocin, and then you're left hungrier than before and more aware of the emptiness you were trying to fill.
And the biology kicks in again.
The biology always kicks in. You form these bonds, then you abruptly sever them. Your brain learns that connection is fleeting and betrayal is inevitable. The loneliness doesn't just return to baseline, it compounds.
Which leads right to the second trend, distrust.
When disposability is the norm, genuine interest is met with suspicion. If someone is actually kind or present, the reaction isn't relief, it's, what's the catch? Am I just their Tuesday dopamine appointment?
So dating becomes this emotional Cold War.
It's all defensive maneuvers.
Yeah.
Don't text back too fast, pretend you don't care, never catch feelings because feelings are a vulnerability. It makes building trust, the bedrock of intimacy, almost impossible.
And this feeds the third trend, relationship avoidance.
People don't avoid love. They avoid the work of love. Let's look at the costs. A real relationship requires patience, effort, vulnerability, discomfort, self-reflection,
And a casual hookup requires?
Wi-Fi, and a charged phone. The cost differential is massive.
So people want the reward of love without the risk. Intimacy without the exposure.
Closeness without getting too close. It's the central paradox, and it leads to this structural failure of relationships before they can even start.
You use the analogy of a garden versus an IKEA houseplant.
A garden needs daily cultivation. An IKEA houseplant, you buy it, stick it in a corner, and expect it to thrive on its own with no effort. That's how we're treating relationships.
Because hookup culture has distorted our expectations, we have no patience. Emotional maturity lags way behind sexual activity.
So when the effort is actually required, people balk. Person A says, I want a loving partnership. Person B says, great, that will require some difficult conversations. And person A just recoils, wait, effort? What am I, Amish? I thought there was an app for that.
So what's the psychology driving all this deep down?
Well, these encounters are really just powerful, if ineffective, coping mechanisms. They serve a few functions.
Okay.
First, it's an avoidant attachment strategy. It satisfies the need for closeness while keeping an escape route wide open. Second, it's a validation dispenser. It's an external, temporary fix for internal insecurity, a quick hit to prove you're desirable.
Third.
A form of trauma numbing, using intense physical sensation to shut down difficult feelings or memories, a distraction. And fourth, and this is almost always true, it's a temporary connection substitute, a safer, less demanding stand-in for the real, scary intimacy people actually crave.
So we're trying to fill these deep structural emotional voids with purely physical activity.
And it works for about 20 minutes. Then the void comes back, often bigger, and asks the question, so what are we?
And this whole cycle connects to the bigger picture, doesn't it? The rising loneliness, dropping marriage rates.
You can't systematically weaken the core of intimacy and then expect strong relationships to magically appear. You cannot normalize emotional detachment and hope for emotional connection to thrive.
Which brings us to the most important part of this, the road back. After all this diagnosis, what are the actual solutions? What can you, the listener, actually do?
First, modern intimacy is not doomed. The human need for connection is too powerful, but we have to be ruthless about the work required. It starts with actively reversing these high-speed trends.
So what are the actual behavioral shifts?
The first, and maybe the hardest, is to normalize slowing down and being radically intentional. Reject the fast food model. Practice intentional dating pauses. Don't meet someone the day after you match. Take a week between dates to actually process how you feel.
Create space for reflection instead of just reacting.
Exactly. Second, we have to commit to feeling emotions instead of numbing them. This means building emotional literacy. When stress hits, the choice has to be talking about it, not using a person to escape it.
And third, we have to start saying what we actually want. Stop performing the role of the cool, detached person. Radical honesty about intentions rebuilds trust instantly.
Fourth, Consciously choose partners based on depth, not novelty. The thrill of the new person is fleeting. The security of deep connection is sustaining. Look for emotional generosity, not just a curated profile.
And finally, I assume communication.
Open, non-defensive communication is the foundation. Move away from ghosting and toward transparently sharing needs, even if it leads to conflict. Intimacy isn't the absence of conflict. It's the willingness to work through it together.
So intimacy becomes sacred again when we introduce consciousness, when we reintroduce vulnerability, and when we stop using each other as escape routes.
That's the whole synthesis. The
Yeah.
future of intimacy has to be conscious and intentional.
The final thought, then, is that this idea of sacredness, of meaningful intentionality, it's not old-fashioned.
It's the necessary future if we want to reverse this tide of loneliness. Sex doesn't have to be some holy ritual.
But it shouldn't be treated like ordering fries.
Liberation without meaning just becomes emptiness. The core takeaway is this: humans are not disposable dopamine machines. We are complex emotional universes. And until we start acting like that's true, the loneliness paradox is here to stay.
Thanks for coming on this deep emotional journey with us. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Also, let us know in the comments what really stood out to you in this conversation, and if there's any related topic or new topic that you would like covered in a future video.